Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021, on a beautiful, mainly calm day in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Temperatures are going to be, I think, in the upper 50s today. No humidity. In fact, it was interesting on my phone this morning, it gave a warning about fires because of the humidity being like 25% or less. So if you've ever been to Atlanta in July and August when the humidity is like 95, 98%, then it's a nice joy to be where there's no humidity. So welcome to Franklin Dale Thomas, Captain O'Captain from the Illinois, great state of Illinois, who takes barges up and down the river there. Tina Kirkpatrick, hello from College Station, Texas. Hello to Tracy Sadaka. Hello to others that are watching on YouTube that I can't currently see. So, anyways, welcome, welcome. I've enjoying, looking forward to this upcoming Thanksgiving. That I always enjoy the holidays. Always enjoy. Oftentimes because I love to watch college football and college basketball, and I especially appreciate this year that my alma mater, Purdue University, is doing quite well in basketball. They're now ranked third in the country as of yesterday, and they should rise to number 2 by next Monday because they'll be playing a team called Omaha, which they have not given the line for yet, but I would expect Purdue to probably win by 40 points or something. Omaha's not considered a very tough team. And then Purdue plays their arch rival Indiana in football this coming Saturday. So anyway, always look forward to the Thanksgiving holidays and getting together, of course, with family. That's what it's all about. Of course, there's a lot of people that get together with family that strive and argue and fight, and that's not fun because their family members aren't healed and aren't delivered, which is kind of what we're talking about today on the topic of the day, is how long should it take to get healed and delivered. So I'm not sure if I've ever talked about this topic before. I might have, but I don't remember that I have. So hopefully it will be good because I get asked that question frequently, and it makes sense. It's like, well, gee, how long should it take? Shouldn't it be just a one-time deal and you're done? No. Did it take you one trauma to cause you to be angry and hurt and bitter for your entire life? No. Most people have gone through many, many, many wounds from oftentimes their own family, their fathers, their mothers, and or sexual stuff that's happened to them or been shown to them. So it's going to take a while once you realize that you're dealing with demonic spirits. Most people in the church have been lied to, unfortunately, by most people in the church that are church leaders and saying, "Oh no, you can't have demons. You're a Christian." I was lied to, and then I ended up seeing all these things and how people behave that are impacted by these wounds and by these demonic spirits. So it's impossible not to have wounds. It's impossible not to hear demons and be a Christian at the same time. Now, you can lessen that greatly, of course, through pursuing inner healing and deliverance. But there are far, far, far more people in the church that would never believe. They have so much pride as a part of those wounds and so forth. And so it's a mess in the church, and it's a mess, of course, outside the church. So there's a small percentage, I'd say a remnant of people who have gotten their wounds healed and delivered, and they actually resemble Jesus. They actually have the fruit of the Spirit, and that's how you know. So yay, 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 yay. Anyway, and it's been good. I'll share this too for those of you that may not know, but I do personal sessions for people. And again, Restore to Freedom has many, many resources for people. Of course, I think the biggest thing to help people get healed and delivered is to simply watch these teachings. Over time, more and more people that watch it, again, they're free, you get more and more healed and delivered as you learn and know more about how this works. And so, but if people do want a session, I do charge for those sessions. It takes time for me to do it, and it's not easy because it's pretty, can be intense, because a person has to go back through all their wounds and talk about, gee, what was it like when your father did these bad things to you, or your mother, or you were sexually touched and so forth. So it takes a lot out of me, takes, some out of them, takes demons out of them, which is a good thing, but typically takes about an hour. But I try to do, I don't know, 5 to 6, 7 sessions a week, and we see tremendous victories, breakthroughs, I guess, in individuals' lives. So, of course, if that's something that you would want, then you can reach out to my assistant, Tina Kirkpatrick, Tina K, at restoredtofreedom.com. Or you can message her if you're a friend on Facebook or you see her. She's always on my Facebook Lives. You can always send a private message too. But Tina K at restoredtofreedom.com is the best way, I guess, because then that way she gets an email and then she can reach back out and then find out what time zone you're at. Again, I do sessions with people all over the world. So people in Australia, New Zealand, France, Sweden, where else did I do? Norway, did a first Norway this year. The UK, South Africa. People are where they speak English. I can only speak English, unfortunately, so at this point. And of course, we have about 70 people now in 9 countries that are certified under Restored to Freedom around the world. But so anyways, of course, we have free resources. Just watch the videos. If you watch this, then you end up getting more understanding in your spirit and you get more deliverance. So the people that have watched our ministry longer, they get it. They understand it. They're like, okay, well, makes sense. This is how a person that would call themselves a Christian manifests with demons. They are selfish. They can get angry. They can get triggered. They're sexually impure. They lie. They gossip. All these things that are from the flesh that are evil. That's what a person that manifests with demons does. So you can imagine people in the world, if you think about that, well, they say that they're a Christian and they can pray in tongues and they can prophesy, but boy, they're mean behind closed doors. They're angry. They raise their voice. They get triggered all the time and they treat me horribly, not like a Christian. And you're like, well, why is that? Well, it's because they've not been healed from their soul wounds yet. And the demons have legal rights to keep speaking to them in their thoughts. So they can get hundreds and thousands of demonic thoughts a day that cause them to trigger. And they get angry, they get jealous, they believe things that are lies that are from the enemy. And that's how it works. So anyway, I'm going to talk about a very important topic. How long should it take a person to get healed and delivered? If they're 30, 40, 50 years old and they've gone through a bunch of wounding and they've never had the church ever address this with them, well, when they start, it can take a while. So, all right, before I get into that, I'm going to talk about my tour. I've been doing a tour now for a long time, since I started doing this. I guess it was really 2017, late 2016, that I started to travel, and I've been traveling ever since, so it's been a long time. But November the 28th, I'm doing a worldwide deliverance session that you can watch on Facebook, you can watch on YouTube. Hello, I see Sherry from Greenville, South Carolina on Facebook. Worldwide deliverance session, free. Again, free. We have a lot of free resources, which is great. November 28th, you can watch the worldwide deliverance session. Lots of people, thousands of people have watched those, like for the first time and then subsequent times, and they get a lot of healing, a lot of breakthroughs, a lot of deliverance. So again, that's Facebook and YouTube, November 28th. December 14th, I will be on Atlanta Live TV, channel 57, talking about my new book, Freedom from Soul Wounds and Demons. Again, people are reading that. Again, that's $13 on Amazon, or $7 on Kindle, or I think it's probably 15 on Audible, and I'll read it to you myself. If you want to get that, download it to your phone. So there's another resource for you. December the 26th, Worldwide Deliverance Session, again, the day after Christmas. January 15th, be again traveling the Atlanta Marriott Perimeter Center. This will be my 4th visit there to Atlanta on the north side. And then January 29th, the Marriott Birmingham in Birmingham, Alabama, which is on the east side of Birmingham. January 30th, Worldwide Deliverance Session. February 19th, Courtyard by Marriott, Orlando, Florida, north of Orlando in Lake Mary. And then February 27th, the Worldwide Deliverance Session. And then March 5th, the Residence Inn at Opryland, which is a brand new hotel there in Nashville, Tennessee on the north side. And I'll be adding some more in Texas, in Arizona, in California, all over the place. All right, topic of the day. How long should it take to get healed and delivered? So you can imagine, how do you get wounded? How do you get demons, basically? Well, you grow up in this world, at birth. Lots of people. In fact, when I interrogate the demonic spirits, the top ones, with people, typically they will tell the person that they started to have legal rights to torment them when they were in the womb. They weren't even born yet. Well, how is that possible, you might ask? Well, you have a mom and a dad that argue and strive and fight a lot. Well, that's going to cause the child to feel that. And it will come through the mother. The mother will oftentimes have a lot of anxiety, fear, anger, bitterness. All that stuff is stress. It comes through the mom into the child. The child feels that. If the child's not wanted, then they will feel the rejection in the womb. Oftentimes, a person's, a mom's pregnant and they're having a strife with their husband or boyfriend, and it could be that the boyfriend doesn't want the child, wants to abort the child, and talks the mother into doing that. Well, the mother, let's say that she doesn't go through with that, but there can be times when the mother was thinking about it, so the child will pick it up in the womb, say, oh my gosh, I've always felt rejected my whole life. And then when I interrogate the top demon, it will tell them, well, when do I have legal rights to start tormenting them? When they were in the womb, when their dad, didn't want them, or their mom didn't want them, or they were born prematurely. And if they were born a couple months early, then there'll be a lot of fear and anxiety normally that will come upon the mother. If they were born breech, if they were prematurely born, a couple of months, and they're by themselves normally in like an incubator. So they end up oftentimes feeling alone and needing to be with somebody all the time. They have a lot of fear because of that. So wounds. We all get wounded. You could have a father and mother that loved you the way that they should, and you still get shown pornography, when you're a little boy, a little girl. That happened to me. I had a good father, good mother. They loved me, but I was shown pornography, and then I struggled with that. All it takes is an exposure one time. I do the sessions with people all the time, and I would say about 90% of the people have been sexually affected improperly. And that is by being shown a person naked, or being touched by someone, by grandpa, by an uncle, by a neighbor. It doesn't have to be rape, but just being touched. There are boys that go to the bathroom and then they get touched, and then all of a sudden the demons start to work on them and start giving them thoughts and feelings that they didn't have before. That's how it all works. It's very, very sad. But that's exactly how it works. Is we get wounded. You have a father or a mother that speaks down to you negatively because they were never healed of their soul wounds, never delivered from their demons. Some of the worst are those in the church. Unfortunately, some of them are very religious, or they're very condemning to you, and they act like they're perfect, and they put you down for anything that you do that is not perfect in their eyes. Is that who Jesus is? No. Was that who the Pharisees were? Yes. Pharisees and the scribes. Did Jesus like them? No. He knew their hearts were wicked and evil. He called them out. So there's a lot of people in the church where you grew up with parents that were not the way that they should be. They're very unloving. They were very judgmental, very critical. So all those things come in to hurt a person. And you can imagine if you're with your father or mother for the first 18 years, you oftentimes see this as if a person's being hurt by their father or mother. And normally you have one that has Jezebel, the Jezebel spirit that's more controlling and manipulative and prideful and arrogant and demanding and wanting their own way. And then they end up marrying a person that's more of Ahab spirit, where they give in and try and tolerate, try and keep the peace. So if you have a person that's got Jezebel that puts you down, nothing you can do is good enough for them, and it's 18 years, normally what happens is that person wants to get out of there, get away from them, not talk to them anymore. Once they graduate from high school, they're gone. They don't want to be abused anymore, and that is abuse, emotional abuse. So all those wounds have an effect on a person. They end up rethinking those negative thoughts that were taught and told to them by their father, their mother, their step parents, whoever. And then they get hurt and wounded. They keep remembering those. So the demons Keep reminding them of what was said to them so that they have anger and bitterness and unforgiveness. That gives the demons legal rights to keep speaking to them. And they come into the church, ask Jesus into their hearts, and the church tells them, hey, guess what? You're saved. Oh, great. And then what happens? They continue to struggle with those negative thoughts, with the negative tendencies, with the pursuit of fleshly desires. They trigger, they get angry, they get bitter. They don't have much fruit of the Spirit. And the only way to get to that point is to go through inner healing and deliverance, where they can truly see the people that hurt them and wounded them from the Lord's perspective, and then they can have compassion for their abuser and forgive. Choosing to forgive takes away the legal rights of the demons to torment them. Humbling themselves from pride. People who have been hurt and wounded will be very prideful, oftentimes look at themselves as a victim. They were a victim initially, yeah, but once they become an adult, then they start to control and manipulate and tell other people what to do. And then they always try to portray themselves as a victim so they can keep getting away with it, having people feel sorry for them. But their demons cause them to control and demand and be mean to the people. And they're not honest with what they do. They have a false narrative where they paint themselves as a victim. I remember one lady, she was very Jezebelic, would be considered a narcissist. She was hurt when she was growing up, and then in her relationships, she would be very controlling and trigger on her husbands and treat them really badly. And then they would end up separating from her and or needing to get away because she needed to get delivered. Well, she refused to get delivered. She would accuse her true victims, her spouse, her husbands, of being like a Jezebel or a narcissist, and would not be honest. If a person's not honest, they're going to keep their demons. And there's a lot of people who have been hurt and wounded who are not being honest with how they behave. So therefore, they're going to keep their demons. The demon's going to have legal rights to keep tormenting them, and they want to keep acting like they're a victim and lie to people to have them feel sorry for them, but then they never get delivered. And that is so true. Yes. So the truth sets people free, and the lies keep them bound and keep the demons having legal rights to torment them. So, how long should it take to get healed and delivered? So I'm going to talk about some of the various factors that go into play with that, because every person is going to be a little bit different. No two situations are the same, are alike. So you really can't have a blanket statement and say, well, you should be delivered in a year, you should be delivered in 2 years. You know, a lot of things. And I'm just going to list some of the factors here. Of course, number one is, how old are you now? You know, if you're like 10 or 12 years of age and you've gone through a little bit of wounding, then it's not going to take long to get healed and delivered. Now, again, going forward, you have to make sure that you forgive people that hurt you. You're going to continually have people hurt you, especially people in the church. But let's say that you're 75 years of age. You've gone through a lot of hurts and wounds that normally have never been addressed. Again, before I started this, the Lord spoke to me and he said, Nelson, make sure to tell them that most people are not healed or delivered. You know, most people in the church are not healed and not delivered. So the majority of people are going to hear demons, trigger, take an offense, be angry, and go off on people all the time. So if you're 75 years of age and you've gone through a lot of wounding, and let's say that you've been married, could be a couple of times, and if you've not been healed and delivered, so it may take a while. It may take you several years to truly get to the point of where you're healed and delivered. I'm going to explain about what does that look like when you are healed and delivered. So number one, of course, is how old that you are today when you start the process to pursue inner healing and deliverance. That's a factor. The other thing is, how much have you been hurt when you grew up? You know, by your father, by your mother, by step-parents, by other people, sexually touched, or shown pornography, or molested. You know, you can have your brother. I see this a lot, brothers and sisters. Incest, they would call it. You know, see a lot of that in the Amish community, believe it or not. I didn't think it. I thought the Amish were the most purest people out there. But then I went to an Amish community in Canada and in the United States, several places. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they have a lot of children, and then a lot of times they have to sleep in the same bed, and or they're multiple in the same room, and there's a lot of incest that happens, unfortunately. And they don't want to talk about that, of course, but I met with people that had that happen to them, and it's a trauma, it's a wound. So again, you get touched sexually, you get shown pornography, you see a naked person, you're going to have the enemy is going to remind you of those and give you like those flashbacks of those uh, bodies and so forth, so that you draw back into that. You struggle with sexual purity. So true. So again, how many traumatic events have you endured? How many people have hurt you when you grew up? Did you have one person, like a father or mother, that continually hurt you, put you down negatively? It doesn't have to be physical or sexual abuse. I'll guarantee you it will be emotional abuse. Guarantee you. You know, you will not have someone that will physically abuse you and sexually abuse you without the emotional. You will always have the words that will come out and that will put you down and hurt you. So that's the number one thing that people will be abused. And again, the demons know that, oh my gosh, if I physically or sexually do something to them, then that's pretty stepping over the bounds of trying to protect my image. And so there's a lot of people in the church who have been hurt emotionally from their fathers or their mothers, or other people. Okay, how many times have you been betrayed by a person? That can take a while to go through and truly forgive people that have done that to you. And that's the challenge, is how do you truly forgive? That's why it can take a long time. That's why a lot of people in the church never get healed and delivered all the way through, or mostly, is because the demons keep reminding them of all the injustices that took place from their father, their mother, or anyone else. So of course, when I take a person through a personal session, this is what I wrote in my book, Freedom from Soul Wounds and Demons, so people can do this on their own, is you close your eyes, you describe what your feelings were. You kind of go back to that time in your life and like, oh my gosh, I felt betrayed. I felt like I never could do anything good enough for my father or my mother, whomever that it was. You know, if it's performance-based love, all these things, all these factors come into play. And you separate the demonic spirits from your soul, which is your mind, your will, your emotions. That's where the demons come in. They're your thoughts, largely. And then you ask Jesus to come to explain to you why. Why did my dad do all these bad things? Why did my mom do all these bad things? Why were they controlling and manipulative? Why did there nothing I could do good enough, and they were horrible to me? And the Lord will tell you, they were hurt too. They were wounded too. They were dealing with demonic spirits too. But they were in the church. But they were in the church. They could prophesy and pray in tongues, but they treated me horribly. That's really hard to reconcile. Well, it's because they have demons. And the church doesn't want to say that. The church wants to say, oh my gosh, no, they're a Christian. They can't have demons. Or Father Jones, he's such a godly man. You know, well, he's going to be maybe godly to an adult, but to a child, if he's been molested, he will then molest other children. And that's exactly what happens, because the demons still have legal rights to torment him. So there's a lot of people that have been hurt over and over and over again. So how do you truly forgive? You ask Jesus to come, show me this person that hurt me really, really badly, that I really have a lot of anger, hatred, and bitterness for, or I want to take vengeance upon them. And the Lord will give you. He'll either speak to you or show you a vision that that person was really hurt too. And then he could say, hello, I'm Jesus. I forgave. I was dying on the cross. I didn't do anything wrong. And I said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. And so we have to do the same thing. If we don't, then the Father can't forgive us for our sins. So that's why it's critical that we truly forgive people from our hearts, not our head. Oftentimes we say, well, I forgave them, or I forgave them, but I'm so mad and angry, I wish I could just punch them. I'm like, oh, wow, then I don't think you've forgiven them. And the demons have legal rights to keep giving you more negative thoughts, more anger, more bitterness, reminding you of the injustices that you went through. And you're going to be a mess. The demons have legal rights. And a lot of those demons have spirits of infirmity that attach to the person. So that they'll have sickness, they'll have diseases a lot because of that. So other factors that come into play with a person's completion of their healing and deliverance is how long does it take them to humble themselves from their pride? You know, it's interesting in my own personal life. I wouldn't have said that I was prideful before I got delivered from majority of that. And what the Lord did is He took me from a job and a position that I had where I was making a lot of money, more than I could spend in a year, basically, and I would save a lot of it. I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was like 40, and so I was making very, very, very good money. And then the Lord took me out of that. You know, he basically changed me, got me healed and delivered, and then I had no desire really to pursue the finances anymore. I wanted to help people, get them healed from their soul wounds and delivered. And so as a process, I believe, of the getting rid of the pride, is the Lord took me into where I had no other choice. I couldn't even get hired once He took me out of the corporate world, and I ended up having to score tests for I think it was $14 an hour, standardized tests in the United States, like third grade, I think it was seventh grade, 10th grade, and then I had to supplement that by giving plasma. Well, that really helps to humble a person. When they were used to making, 160,000 a year was kind of my average. I made 230,000 one year. So going from that to making like less than 10,000 a year is a nice humbling process. And I can honestly look back. I remember when I was going through that, I'm thinking, wow, I go, this is crazy, Lord. I never thought I'd ever have to go through in here and wait in line to give plasma with other people, that's what they did all the time. You know, a lot of them struggled. You could just tell, struggle with smoking cigarettes. You know, they weren't supposed to be doing drugs, but who knows, they asked you certain questions. But I appreciate going through that process because it did take out a whole bunch of the pride that I had, because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm grateful and thankful for anything now. Somebody makes a donation for $5. I'm thankful and grateful for that, and I appreciate people. But there was a process of going through the humbling out of the pride. And there's so many people that have been hurt and wounded where the spirit of Leviathan, Job 41, verse 34, says it's king over all the children of pride. So what happens when we get hurt and wounded is that spirit of pride starts to speak to us in our mind, tells us we can't trust anybody else. We got to protect ourselves. Got to make all the decisions. And so it causes a lot of strife. But the demons said that, you know what, you couldn't trust your dad or your mom, so you better make sure you make all the decisions in your life. And any decisions that anybody else might make, you better tell them what to do, like your spouse. So that's what Jezebel does. Jezebel and Leviathan always team up. So those who have been hurt and wounded the most will operate in the Jezebel spirit. People will call them narcissists, the psychologists will. But you got to get to the root of all of this. And the root of it is demonic. All of these wounds have an effect. You can't tell a person they have a mental disorder when it's a demonic disorder every single time. It would be anything that's up here is going to be having a spiritual root that goes with that. So, all right. So, let me go on. So another thing that's really hard for a person is to be honest. People that struggle more with that spirit of Jezebel will tend to have those demonic spirits. They're used to hearing their voices, and they'll tell them, you don't have any demons. That's crazy. You're like, yeah, that's crazy. So then you keep your demons and you don't get delivered. And then you keep responding to people, getting triggered, thinking that everything that you say and do is right. Everybody else just needs to get in line with you. And then the whole world would be in a much better position when you are the one that has the demonic spirits, and you just can't see it because the demons are blinding you. So you think that everything that you say and do is right. Anyone that would ever disagree with you is wrong. I've seen this a lot on social media where people will say, they're so angry. They're like, oh my gosh, all my enemies, they're all going to hell, and their enemies, in truth, are godly people. But it's their demons within them that trigger them, because they get mad and angry if those who are more godly don't do what they want, or they disagree with what they're trying to do. So they're messed up inside of their minds. So you got to be honest with how you actually behave. And a lot of times the demons won't let you. They'll say, because they know that if you start to be honest with your behavior, that will loosen the strength that they have on you. And then you can command them to go once you're honest. But most people are not honest. They're like, oh, no, 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 everything that I do is right. Everything one else, that my spouse comes against me, it's all their fault. Oftentimes, the demons will convince a person who has a strong spirit Jezebel to confuse and accuse their spouse of being the Jezebel when they're not. I saw this myself and I was like, really? I'm like, but that's what they do. The demons were like, oh no, they're the ones that are controlling. What? Why? Because they don't want to agree with the bad decisions that the true Jezebel is making. And they want to stand up for themselves and stand up for Jesus and say, no, we're not going to tolerate that today. That's wrong. That's a bad thing to do. And then the Jezebel will truly trigger and get mad and angry. So you got to be honest with your own behavior. If you're not honest, you're not going to get delivered. That's why a lot of people say, well, this didn't work for me. Or they'll say, hey, I went through deliverance. I'm good now. And they still operate hearing the demonic spirits. And they still self-sabotage their own relationships. All right, that's why I can take a person, they may not get delivered. If they, and I've seen this. Not every couple that I deal with is going to have typically it's the person that has Jezebel is the hardest one to get delivered. Not everyone is going to get delivered because it's up to them. It's a free will thing. They have a free will to choose to be honest or to live in their lies. They have to be humbled through that. That's why that's a process. That's why it can take a long time. That's why you go through one session. If I took a person through a session, the goal is to try to break off, hopefully, maybe 75% of the demonic spirit strengths through getting those wounds healed, not having the anger and the bitterness for all the people that hurt them, and then taking the legal rights away of the demons and commanding them to go. But then that person can just start being angry again, be prideful, and the demons can have legal rights then to come back. That's why it can be a struggle with the person. All right, let me go on. They need to be repentant. Everyone needs to be repentant for their sins. If you're living a rebellious lifestyle, you want to be selfish and do whatever you want, demons are going to have legal rights to torment you. Idols. A lot of times people have idols that they've made before the Lord. Anything that would lead you away from the Lord, that lead you closer to the enemy, that you're unwilling to give up, it would be considered an idol. Anything that you spend a lot of time on or a lot of money on. So, could be your drinking of alcohol. If you have to drink all the time, and that's how you get your quasi peace for a few hours is by drinking alcohol. Eating, you can overeat. That's called gluttony. Drugs, vaping, smoking, money, the pursuit of money. Money's not a bad thing, obviously. If you are healed and delivered, then you can use it for kingdom purpose and helping more people get healed and delivered. Otherwise, if you're pursuing money all the time, and I see this all the time, I was in the business world, people that would call themselves a Christian, yet, my gosh, they would sacrifice everything to make more money. And it was not a good thing in their life. Cussing. Cussing is not a good thing. Again, people that are strong in the Lord will not do that. But people that are still growing in their spiritual walk can struggle with a lot of cussing, and that gives legal rights to the demons. Watching dirty movies. Dirty movies could be sexually or explicit, or could be cussing or a lot of violence. It is not healthy to be watching things that are junk. Hello to Anna Denny, Anna and Travis Denny, woman and man of God and of great faith. Thank you for watching on Facebook. What else? Listening to bad music. And if you're listening to a lot of negative junk all the time, a lot of demonic stuff in the words, then that's going to play in your thoughts, in your mind all the time. And it will give legal rights to the demonic spirits to cause you to feel yucky inside and do things that are not good. If you keep hearing the demonic spirits tell you over and over again to lust after someone, or it's all about your image, what do you look like? You better look like, perfect on the outside, put a ton of makeup on, all that. It costs money. People that struggle with demonic spirits, the demons will cause them to spend a lot of money on things that are ridiculous, that are frivolous, that add no value to their life whatsoever. You know, oftentimes you see people that are sacrificing everything for a huge home or for a leased vehicle or a brand new vehicle that that it becomes an idol essentially before the Lord. You know, how do you know? Well, when the money doesn't control you to demand that you whatever work more hours and or take time away from your family and never see them and so forth. You know, all that stuff is trying to break you and bow down to the demonic spirits that are in manna and money. So there's a lot of people that struggle with that. Other things, yoga is again open door to the enemy. Why? Because you're yoking. That's what yoga means, yoking yourself with demonic spirits. It comes from Hindu, from India, and all these kundalini spirits that have legal rights that will wrap around your back, your neck, your spine, cause you to have a lot of pride that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be one with the world. I'm gonna be one with all this stuff. It's just not godly. There's no such thing as Christian yoga, hot yoga, all that stuff is being used by the enemy. You got to look at the origin of these things. The origin, where does it originate from? Do some research. Now, I remember reading about there's one guy that he actually, it's on the internet still. He wrote like a blog about it, and he said, yeah, he could hear and he could tell that the demonic spirits wanted him to keep pursuing, becoming more and more closer to the one of whatever the universe, and it ultimately was wrapping around his back, neck, spine, trying to cause it to get into the brain and have it like burst, and it was not good. All feeding his pride. So, all right. Other things could be clothing, could be appearance, could be our bodies, cosmetics, all kinds of things that we spend money on that at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of your life, it's like, what value is all that? You know, there's things that the Lord does want to give us, our desires of our heart, when those things don't have us, don't own us. And you get to the point of, gee, what good is buying another shirt, buying another dress, buying another whatever it is, you know? It's all about relationships. You know, we should help and love people and help others to get healed and set free and delivered. So, how do you know? Again, when it comes to time frame, you know, these factors all come into play. You know, all the things that have happened to us. How long have you been hurt? How long have you been abused? How long have you been betrayed? Could be from people that are your mom and your dad. Could be from people at work. Could be people from your siblings, your family, your spouse. All those things. It can take a while to get healed and delivered from that, because it's up to you to be, number one, honest. Number two, you need to forgive people who hurt you. And to truly forgive a person, it may take a while. You may have different layers of forgiveness that, okay, I'm willing to forgive this much, but boy, oh my gosh, if you remember something else that they did, I'm not going to forgive that person for that. That was so bad. I'm like, okay, great. Well, then the demons have legal rights, and God can't forgive you for all your sins now because of that. You know, pride can take a while at a person, can take a long time to get a person healed and delivered from that. It's really hard to get a person who's prideful delivered, because they basically will say, oh no, I'm good to go. Or I went through a deliverance session 20 years ago and I'm great now. You're like, okay. So you know, how do you know when you're delivered, basically, or more delivered? It's when you walk in the fruit of the Spirit, really. You walk in the fruit of the Spirit as a normal part of your life. That means you're going to have love for people, agape love, Christ-like love. You're going to love people. You're going to have joy. You're going to be joyful inside. You're not going to go from day to day, woe is me, being angry, being depressed, all these, being suicidal, of course, all these things that are struggles with demonic spirits. You're going to be a joyful person most of the time. Now, again, you may have some situations, someone might die in your family. You're going to grieve over that. That is normal, absolutely. But if you keep on focusing on the negative all the time in your life, and then you speak it out all the time, well, then the enemy's got you. He's like, you're always going to be negative, and your life's never going to get better. So that's why you got to take the thoughts captive. That's why Paul wrote that in there. We don't take those thoughts captive, then those thoughts will take us captive. So love, joy, you'll be a peaceful person. You really can't fake peace. People that have demonic spirits are not peaceful people. They'll strive, they'll argue, they'll be selfish, they'll want their own way. They'll be drama queens, drama kings. And then patience, which is really long suffering. That really shows the maturity of a Christian, is how long can they have things that are struggles, that are challenges, that are having to give in to another person to love them because that other person's in more pain and they're spiritually less mature. Biting your tongue a lot instead of speaking out, being triggered all the time. So long suffering is a fruit of the spirits. Most people don't want that. They don't want long suffering. I didn't want that. But I had to go through a lot of that. And I ended up writing a book called Loving Like Christ, that a couple people, different countries, have said that they read it and they're like, that's a very anointed book. That's amazing. And I'm like, I wrote it, and then I don't normally read my books again, but then I had to do the Audible, like, I don't know, a year later. And when I did the Audible, I was like, wow, this is really good. So Loving Like Christ really allows you to love people who are hard to love, to see them through Christ's eyes, so you can truly forgive them. So other things that you'll see in your life, fruit of the Spirit, is you'll be kind to people. People that aren't delivered aren't going to be kind to people. And they'll say, well, I'm just going to speak my mind. I'm like, well, then you need to get your mind delivered, because your mind doesn't have a lot of good things to say. And you need to keep your mouth quiet, because you're not a kind person. Jesus was kind. So if you don't have any kindness, then that's proof that you still have some work to do. Goodness. You'll be doing good things for people, not bad things. So you're not going to be throwing knives and glasses at people. You're not going to be putting people down. You're not going to be competing with your son or daughter, or shaming people. You're going to be doing good things. And then gentleness. You're going to be a gentle person, a gentle spirit. I was being served by a waiter the other day, and he was very gentle in his spirit, and he had been hurt deeply by the church. They did not help him in his relationship with his wife. It's very sad. And I felt very unpleased with the church. And of course Jesus had a righteous anger at the Pharisees and the scribes and people that were buying and selling in his building. And but you'll have a gentleness. You'll be faithfulness, and you'll have self-control. You won't be wanting to control other people. And people that have demons and aren't delivered are going to try to control and make you do what they want. I posted a thing on Facebook today and YouTube that talked about that. People that are just like God. God doesn't make us. He doesn't control us to do what he wants. He gives us free will to choose. And unfortunately, a lot of people have a lot of anger and bitterness. They don't see God the way that he really is. God loves us. But if you're in a relationship with someone, if you're married to someone, if I were to try to control my wife, make her do what I wanted, that wouldn't go well. I mean, you can't, put it this way, a relationship will never have intimacy if you try to make your spouse do what you want. It's have liberty, have freedom to choose to do what you would like. Now if the other person has Jezebel, then they're going to try to control you, make you everything that they want. A relationship, a healthy relationship, is, hey honey, where do you want to go to eat tonight? What do you want to do tonight? What do you want to do for Thanksgiving? Where do you want to go? Where should we take the kids? And what would they want? You can include the children. Say, so what would you guys like to do tonight or on Thanksgiving or whatever? And then people have, oh my gosh, free will to choose. People that aren't delivered are going to try to control you and make you do what they want. You can't make a person love you. All it does is push them away. There's no freedom there to love. The best relationships, the healthiest ones, are where both parties are able to share their true feelings in love and then come to a decision. But those who are controlling, trying to make people do what they want and force them to and manipulate them and shame them, abuse them, that's not a healthy relationship, not whatsoever. So again, how do you know when you're healed and delivered? You're going to show the fruit of the Spirit. You're not going to get triggered anymore. You're not going to go off on somebody. You're not going to take an offense at the drop of a hat. People that struggle with the Jezebel spirit will take an offense over everything. You can't please them. They'll get mad and angry. They'll trigger, get jealous. And it's hell. People that are healed and delivered, it's very calm, very peaceful. They're not going to be triggered by anything. They're not going to take an offense. It's going to show your spiritual maturity when other people who are not spiritually mature take an offense and get angry. You'll bite your tongue a lot. You won't gossip about other people. You're going to be honest. Oftentimes, people that aren't delivered are going to be doing all these things that are sinful, that are not good, and they have to lie about it and cover it up so that other people don't see who they really are, because they'd be embarrassed. And the people that are healed and delivered aren't doing those things. If they do make a mistake, they can be honest and say, I'm sorry. Sorry, honey. Please forgive me. And then they will. You'll also be sexually pure. You'll not be masturbating. You'll not be looking at porn. You'll not be evil, with your spouse. You won't be sexually selfish and demanding. And you'll be loving. You won't be lusting after other people. So that's how you know when you are mostly healed and delivered. Do we get completely healed and delivered of everything? It's a challenge, obviously, until we get to heaven. But you'll have much more fruit of the Spirit than you will fruit of the flesh. People that aren't healed and delivered are going to have a lot. That's why I read Galatians 5:16-26, because it clearly states all these things of the flesh, all these sexual desires that are not pure, not godly, your wrath, jealousy, anger, striving, fighting, arguing, contention, all that stuff says you're not going to be inheriting the kingdom of God. So you're not going to heaven if you continue to struggle with all that stuff. That's why it's important to pursue inner healing and deliverance. That's why it can take a while. It may take you, if you've gone through some pretty heavy stuff when you were growing up and now you're in your 40s or 50s, it may take you a couple of years to truly be healed and delivered from all of that stuff. You can make some significant difference. You know that you're going to be significantly different when you aren't getting triggered anymore. You have a lot of peace, humility, sexual purity, fruit of the Spirit. And it's just how ready are you to be willing to be honest with all that stuff that you struggle with. The Lord would love to show it all to you and say, you know what, you need to change this, and this, and this. The Lord loves us, but He wants us to have the fruit of the Spirit. So, all right. So anyway, how do you know? You're going to be behaving a lot more like Jesus. So Romans 6:15-23, I'll conclude with, says, what then? Shall we sin because we are not under law, but under grace? Certainly not. Do you not know that to whom you present yourselves slaves to obey, you are that one's slaves whom you obey, whether of sin leading to death, hell, or of obedience leading to righteousness and heaven? But God be thanked that though you were slaves of sin, yet you obeyed from the heart that form of doctrine to which you were delivered, and having been set free from sin, you became slaves of righteousness. I speak in human terms because of the weakness of your flesh. For just as you presented your members as slaves of uncleanness and of lawlessness, which is sin, leading to more sin, so now present your members as slaves of righteousness for holiness. For when you were slaves of sin, you were free in regard to righteousness. What fruit did you have then? This is before deliverance. Then in the things of which you are now ashamed. For the end of those things is death, hell. But now having been set free from sin and having become slaves of God, you have your fruit to holiness, and the end everlasting life. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. So again, when you're healed and delivered, you will have the fruit of the Spirit. And you'll just be a peaceful person that will truly care about other people. You won't trigger, you won't take an offense. You'll be a person that other people will draw to. They will want what you have. And you'll have peace in your life. And you won't strive, you won't be selfish, you won't be doing things that are not godly. You won't have to cover up from them either. So, all right, I will let you guys go as it's trying to keep these to 30 minutes now. So anyway, I'm not sure if I'm going to do any more lives this week because of Thanksgiving. I definitely will not be doing one on Thursday or Friday. I don't think I'm going to do one tomorrow, so you may not see me again until Monday. So anyways, have a great Thanksgiving season, and don't strive and fight and argue with your relatives. Understand, be the stronger spiritual person. That people that are not healed and delivered are not really capable of behaving good. They're not capable of not manifesting. They will manifest, and they will say things that will hurt you over the holidays if you're around them. So understand that. Be the stronger spiritual person, and don't respond when they're saying things that would hurt you. Just walk away, stay quiet, and diffuse, and just understand that they're not healed and delivered yet. So, all right, I will see you guys later. Saying goodbye to you.